Jesus Good Friday Drone Show. We're so glad you're here. Who's excited? Somebody make some noise.
Yeah, Trent is. Woo! Yeah, come on. I'm excited.
Trent, aren't you narrating the drone show tonight?
I know, yeah, but it's Good Friday, so I'm pumped. Hey, Pastor Jason, let me ask you something. What makes Good Friday so good?
Now, Trent, that is a good question. Let's start with the good news found in John chapter 3 that's delivered to Nicodemus.
Yeah, that's perfect. Let's start there. Nicodemus, Pharisee, came to Jesus under the cover of night. He was afraid, yet he wanted to know the truth. Rabbi, he said, we all know that God has sent you to teach us. Your miraculous signs are evidence that God is with you. Jesus said, I tell you the truth. Unless you are born again, you cannot see the kingdom of God. Nicodemus was confused. What do you mean? How can an old man go back into his mother's womb and be born again?
Oh my God.
Jesus said, unless one is born of water and spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. Nicodemus replies, how can these things be?
No, you can't have that.
Jesus answers, if I told you earthly things and you do not believe them, how can you believe if I tell you heavenly things? Nicodemus, for God so loved the world, he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life.
Trent, isn't that interesting? John 3:16, probably the most well-known verse of the Bible, was actually a private conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, your question, what's the good about Good Friday? Well, the events of Good Friday. And it begins in the garden.
It's 12 a.m. The night was heavy with betrayal. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prayed, his soul sorrowful unto death. Suddenly, torches flickered in the darkness. Judas, one of his own, arrived with soldiers. Jesus proclaimed, my friend, do what you have come to do. The soldiers seized Jesus. Peter, overcome with rage, drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. But Jesus, even in this moment, reached out and healed the man. Put away your sword, Jesus told Peter. Those who use the sword will die by the sword. He touches the servant's ear, healing him. The soldiers seized Jesus, and the Son of God was led away in chains. The disciples scattered in fear. Through the night, he is brought before the high priest, where false accusations fly. Yet, he remains silent. After a long night of accusations, it's now about 6 a.m., and he stands before Pilate. Pilate says sternly, what are the charges against this man? The religious leaders reply, he has been leading the people astray, telling them not to pay taxes to Caesar,
Dad's right here.
and claiming he is the Messiah, a king. Pilate looks at Jesus, studying him, and says, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus replies calmly, is this your own question? Or what did others tell you about me? Pilate scoffs, am I a Jew? Your own people and their leading priests brought you to me for trial. Why? What have you done? Jesus answered, my kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. If it were, my followers would fight to keep me from being handed over. But my kingdom is not of this world. Pilate questions him, so you are a king? Jesus replied, you say I'm a king. Actually, I was born and come into the world to testify to the truth. All who love the truth recognize that what I say is true. Pilate, murmuring to himself, what is
I
truth?
didn't even notice that.
What is truth? What an important question Pilate asked. Jesus is the truth, and the truth is, he takes our place. Just ask Barabbas.
Before Pilate stood two men, one guilty, one innocent. Barabbas, a convicted murderer, and Jesus, the sinless Son of God. Pilate raises his hand to quiet the crowd. You have a custom that I release one prisoner each year at Passover. Do you want me to release the king of the Jews? The crowd shouts, no, not this man. We want Barabbas. Barabbas, stunned, is unshackled. He walks free. Pilate is shocked and poses the question, what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? The crowd, even louder now, shouts, crucify him. Pilate pleads with the crowd. Why? What crime has he committed? The crowd is relentless. Crucify him! Crucify him! In hope to satisfy the crowd, Pilate orders Jesus to be beaten. The whips tore into his flesh, each lash cutting deeper, leaving his back raw and bleeding. The soldiers laughed as they fashioned a crown of thorns, pressing it onto his head until blood ran down his face. Hail, King of the Jews, they jeered, draping a purple robe over his torn body, spitting on him and striking him with their fists. The soldiers mocked Jesus. If you are the Messiah, tell us. Another soldier laughs and says, prophesy, who hit you this time? The King of Kings is ridiculed as a criminal, and he stands silent before his accusers. Pilate washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I'm innocent of this man's blood. The responsibility is yours. Yet his guilt remains. Jesus is taken away and sentenced to die. "9 a.m., Golgotha. The journey through Jerusalem had been agonizing. Jesus, bruised, bloodied, and barely able to stand, now arrived at the place called Golgotha. The Roman soldiers wasted no time. They stripped Jesus of his garments, throwing him onto the rough wood of the cross. With brutal force, they drove iron spikes into his hands and feet, the sound of hammers striking metal echoing across the hill. With a great effort, they lifted the cross upright. The Son of God hung between two criminals condemned to die. The crowds gathered. Some stood in silence, watching, others mocked. A member from the crowd shouted, "If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." A religious leader spoke up and said, "He saved others, but he can't save himself. Let's see if God will rescue him now." But Jesus did not fight back. He did not curse them. Instead, in mercy and love, he lifted his voice to heaven. "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." One thief who hangs on the left of Jesus begins to speak. "So you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself, and us too while you're at it." But the other criminal protested, "Don't you fear God even when we have been sentenced to die? We deserve to die for our crimes, but this man hasn't done anything wrong." As one thief still refuses to acknowledge who Jesus is, the other makes a humble request. "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus, gasping for breath, says this, "I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise."
Trent, so Barabbas, a convicted killer, is set free because of Jesus.
Yeah, that's good for Barabbas.
And a thief who's condemned to die on a cross recognizes who Jesus is, and Jesus gives him the assurance that today he'll be in paradise.
Yeah, that's good for him.
Now there's 4 more statements that Jesus is going to say on the cross on Good Friday.
Well, let's hear them.
Yes, because they're good for us.
At 12 p.m., darkness fell across the whole earth until about 3 p.m. The light from the sun was gone. As the hours passed and the sky remained dark, Jesus is hanging on the cross and is nearing the end of his suffering. His strength is nearly gone. Quoting Psalms 22, Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some remembered his words from the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied, as Jesus longs to satisfy the wrath of God for our righteousness. So Jesus says, I thirst. And with his next word, our sin would be paid in full when he declared, Tetelestai, it is finished. The work of salvation is complete. The mission that began long ago in the Garden of Eden, the plan that stretched through the prophets, the laws, the sacrifice, all of it has led to this moment. It is finished. At around 4 p.m., Jesus utters his last statement from the cross. Father, I entrust my spirit into your hands. Suddenly, the earth trembles, rocks split, tombs open, and the curtain in the temple tears in two from top to bottom, signifying that the barrier between God and humanity has been removed. Jesus' lifeless body hangs on the cross. His mission is complete. The Sabbath is approaching, and the Jewish leaders request that the bodies of the crucified be removed. The soldiers come to break the legs of the criminals to quicken their death. But when they came to Jesus, they saw that he was already dead, so they didn't break his legs. One of the soldiers, however, pierced his side with a spear, and immediately blood and water flowed out. It's Good Friday. The disciples have disappeared. The stone is rolled into place. The soldiers stand guard. But the good news is, it's only Friday. Sunday is coming. Hope is lost. Sin has conquered. Jesus is dead. But the good news is, it's only Friday. Sunday is coming. Jesus lays in the tomb. Satan is celebrating. Death has won. But the good news is, it's only Friday. Sunday is coming. It's Good Friday. Is it good?